Sasa tutaongozwa na nani? Kuja mama. Kuja utuongoze hiyo wimbo ya cha kutumaini sina. Cha kutumaini sina ila damu yake.
Haya, tupige makofi. Cha kutumaini sina ila damu yake Yesu. Sina wema wa kutosha dhambi zangu kuziosha. Kwake Yesu nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. Kwake Yesu mimi nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. Damu yake na sadaka nategemea daima, yote chini ya kisha Mwokozi atanitosha. Kwake Yesu mimi nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. Kwake Yesu nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. Nikitwa hukumuni, rohoni nina amani. Nikivikwa haki yake, sina hofu mbele zake. Kwake Yesu nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. Kwake Yesu nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. Njia yangu iwe ndefu, yeye hunipa wokovu. Mawimbi yakinipiga, nguvu zake ndizo nanga. Kwake Yesu nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama. Kwake Yesu nasimama, ndiye mwamba ni salama.
Na tuombe. Mfalme na Mungu wetu, tuakiri wewe ni Mungu. Jina lako ni kuu kuliko majina yote. Tangia asubuhi mpaka jioni, Mfalme, jina lako limetukuka. Tangia tulipoingia kikao hiki, ewe Mfalme mwema, umenena na mioyo yetu. Umetufunza, umetuelekeza katika njia zako, ewe Bwana. Na asante kwa sababu ulituleta hapa na kusudi na mpangilio mkamilifu. Na kwa sababu umetuandalia mesa, Mfalme mwema, tuwajipeana kwako. Na ili ukaendelea kutufunza na kutujenga katika jina la Yesu. Na ili pahali ambapo kila mmoja wetu amesimamia, ewe Bwana Mfalme Mungu ishie milele, ukatushikanisha na hatima yetu, na hatima ya kihesabu na fedha na utajiri wa kanisa hili katika jina la Yesu Kristo. Fungua mawazo yetu hata nyakati hizi za dhuhuri, ewe Bwana. Tunaomba ukatuhuisha na ukatuweka nguvu mpya katika jina la Yesu Kristo. Twakiri wewe ndiye mwenye muumba wa mbingu na nchi, na fedha na dhahabu ni zako, ewe Bwana. Wewe ndiye mwenye ng'ombe milima elfu na elfu. Na kwa hivyo twakiri ya kwamba wewe ambao umepanda kanisa lako juu ya jiwe, ya kwamba hata misingi ya kusimu kama haitaiweza. Tunaomba ukatufungulia utajiri ambao umeandaa kwa ajili ya huduma na kanisa hili katika jina la Yesu. Asante kwa ajili ya mwanananji wa dhuhuri ya leo. Tunaomba ukamwandaa na ukashika usemi wake na ukaweka hekima na upako maradufu katika jina la Yesu. Nasi tunanyenyekea miguuni mwako katika mesa yako, na ili Mfalme Mungu ishie milele ukatupakuria, nasi tukafurahia na kukiria kwamba umenena na umetufunza kadiri ya mapenzi yako. Jina lako litukuzwe, jina lako libarikiwe. Na ni katika jina la Yesu Kristo tumeomba na kuamini. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Elder Jada, for that session. members of the Finance Committee, the reason why we did set aside this day that we are not together with the accountants and we shall be with them tomorrow is because of the nature of things we are adjudicating are in nature policy issues, which are clearly within our mandate. And therefore, that is why you find us talking about policy issues, governance issues, requirements that we need to do as the Finance Committee. So purely this is what is within us under Act 14 of the Constitution, and that's why we said let's first meet and deal, expedite with matters of policy and those things that we give leadership in, and especially on things like NSSF, which are just about to invite Reverend Karaoke to come and share with us as we wait for Patricia to just give us a brief status of where we are with our project. So without much ado, allow me, Chair, that I invite Reverend Peter Karaoke. Let's give him a clap as he comes to just discuss on us on matters in SSF, what are the changes. Number two, the pension, what has changed so far, and that so that we are enlightened in what we need to do. Karibu, Rev. He doubles up as the Reverend and our internal auditor. Karibu.
Thank you, Efo. I think we have that document we want to present, projected. And we appreciate the opportunity to come. And I want to go through the NSSF Act, which is a major. This is an issue that is so important to all of us. And from the policy perspective, our desire is that you understand so that you can be able to guide on policy level the issues that are relating to the government. And so there are three things that I want to address, and that is the NSSF contribution model, and the contracting out, and the board resolution to contract out. And this is about the NSSF Act 2013, and the NSSF Act 2013, you know NSSF, the National Social Security Fund. This is the fund that we all contribute, and the contribution has been progressively increasing every other day. And the reason why we want to bring it is because there are key issues that we expect you to undertake when it comes to the Act itself. It gives the level of contributions, that is the Tier 1 and the Tier 2. I will explain shortly what Tier 1 and Tier 2 means. And there are quite a number of terms to define. There are the term benefits. And I want to go to the background of the NSSF itself. And I don't want to lose you. So NSSF, when it was made in 1975, it was under the Ministry of Labor, and several changes have come by. So in 2013, the whole world was moving from what we call the Provident Fund to a pension fund. So Provident Fund is when we were going to NSSF and we were given money in lump sum. You retire, then you are given all your money, you go home, and then that business is over. The world has changed from now having the lump sum Provident scheme to giving money in terms of pension. And that is why the government, NSSF 2013, came to change the NSSF from a provident fund to a pension fund. And so, when it was changed, there was a lot of legal issues. I'm explaining this because of a very good reason why the whole thing is important to you. The legal issues moved from 2013. There was a lot of legal challenges, but earlier in the year, I think February last year, 2022, the court, from 2013, it was not implemented. So in February 2022, that's when the court said that the NSSF Act has to be implemented in full. Now, under the guidance of the Presbyterian Church, in 2013, the church said that we are going to contribute to the NSSF the way the NSSF 2013 had approved. And that is why in the payslip that you approve every other time, we do not contribute anything less than 1080. Can you remember that? We contribute 1080. So, when 2022 came, the employer made a lot of noise because they were contributing 400. But now, after the implementation, they were told now to move and start contributing 1080 to their employees. So employees have to be deducted 1080 and the employer 1080. So 2,160 is the one that was going to the NSSF. So now, what came or what changes did it come from February 2023? How it changes. The next slide shows how the act, what I have explained, the Supreme Court ruling that delivered the cases that were there and how it was resolved on 16 February 2023, it started the implementation. After the implementation, now, the differences. I want to explain 2 or 3 differences that came. Now, in the next slide, we have the comparison between the old scheme and the new scheme. The old scheme, NSSF, I have told you, it was a provident fund. Next slide. Yeah, it was the old scheme, it was a provident fund. But the new scheme is a pension fund. And always underline that. Now, under the old scheme, it was mandatory for the employed, every employed person, all the employed persons. But when we came to the new one, we have what we call the Tier 1 and the Tier 2. And I want you to understand the Tier 1 and the Tier 2 because it will help you when you are doing policy and it will affect directly the presbytery budget that you learn. Now, in 1996, if those who are old like myself and started contributing early, you know, in 1977, our NSSF, we were paying 70 shillings. Can you remember that? If you are old enough. Okay. We moved 201 together. We started contributing 160. Then, from 201, the regulations have said that we contribute 400. This is what 2013 moved, that we will not have what we call an ad valorem figure. That is a specific figure. We shall have a percentage. Are we together? So we moved from a specific figure to a percentage. And this is the percentage that is 12%. That is, the employer contributes 6% and the employee contribute 6%. And so that is the 12% that gets to to the new act. Now, underline this, the final part of it, that the registration of old NSSF, you are required to have 5 employees to register. But under the new, even one employee is supposed to be under the NSSF. One employee is supposed to be under NSSF. Now, the next important thing is there is no issue like you have employed somebody on contract or no contract. Every employee in the country called Kenya is to be paid pension, because at the end of the day, the NSSF is a pension scheme and not a provident scheme. Are we together? And so understand that this applies to everyone, for those who we have been thinking about it. What is the contribution model? The contribution model of NSSF is this that I want to explain. Beginning February 2023, there is the tier 1. The tier 1 is the 200, is the 400 shillings. The 200 that was being contributed and the 200 from the other side. Now, we have the tier 2. I will come and show you an example of how it is to be computed. We have the tier 2 contribution. The tier 2 contribution can be, currently it is going to NSSF. But you know, a lot of people have issues with NSSF because NSSF never calls for an AGM. Sindio? Or you have ever been invited. NSSF do not declare anything. And what has been declared by NSSF as a percentage, the highest I think I have had is 6%. They are very poor. And the political patronage makes people not to trust NSSF with their retirement money. So what happens? The money was divided into 2, tier 1 and tier 2, and tier 2 money was given the leeway that we can be able to give to another investor. Now, in the next slide, let me show you just an example of how to compute tier 1 and the tier 2. Now, write this because it is important. The computation on NSSF depend with what we call the national average earnings. The national average earning is the amount of money that if we compute all the salaries in this country, then divide with the number of employees, every employee, that is the salary they will get. In 2013, the national average income or the national average earning was 36,000. And so the NSSF, you were to be charged, or it was to be charged on 50% of the national average earnings. Are we together? So 50% of the national average earning was how much? Is how much? I think you are following me. Is how much? 18,000. So it is half of that. Now, what is 6% of 18,000? 6% of 18,000 is 500 and what to do? 18,000, the national average income. The national average income was 36,000. And so we were to use 50% of the national average income, which is 18,000. Now, the law says you use 6% of the 50% of the national average income. That is where the 1080 was coming from. Are we together there? That is where the 1080 was coming from. Now, the national average income, we have two figures. The lower earning income. The lower earning income is the figure that is declared every year by the Minister of Labor as the lowest income. Ile ina kwa Labor Day. Can you remember that? Your Labor Day. So that is the figure that I'm writing, the lower earning limit. There is the upper earning limit, which is the national average income. What was that? 6,000. Now, go to in year one. That is why year one that started in February 2022, we were paying 1080. Employee was doing 1080 and the employer was doing 1080. Now, we are in year two. Are we together? In year two, in January, the government brought us and said that we are to use 1% of the national average income. So rather than using 18,000, we are using the total of 36,000. Are we together? However, the national average income today is 72,000. You see? So the national average income is 72,000. The government, so if we are to use 6% of the 72,000, how much will we be taking to NSSF? 6% of 72,000? Somebody? $43.20. So now, today, we are supposed to be paying for NSSF 4,320 each. That is employer 4,320, employee 4,320. However, the government in January said they are not going to use the total of the national average income. And they gave a figure that is lesser than that. So the national average income they are using currently for figure one was, I think, was 42,000. And so in the next slide, I will show you how it is calculated. Maybe we go to the next two slides ahead. Okay, this is the figure that we have. So initially, the tier one was 6% of 6,000, the lower earning level. That gave a figure of 360,000. So the employer was doing 360, and the employee was doing 360. That is what was giving us a total of employee 1080 and employer 1080. Now, in the next slide, I explain to you how it happens in year two. This is what happens in year two. In year one, you have seen our figure is 1080. Are we together? In year two, now the government gave us 7,000. Rather than giving us the total of the national average income, they gazetted that 6,000 as the figure to use. Rather than using 30,000, the 1818, now the 36, if you calculate tier one, they gave us a figure of 7,000. Now we are in the column of year two. Are we together? We follow the column of year 2. That is 7,000. 36,000 minus already the 7,000 that we have calculated tier 1 with, it remains what? 29,000. Do you see that? So the 29,000 that remains is what we do 6%. If you do 6% of the 29,000, the figure is 1,740. Are we together? So that is why today your NSSF contribution today is 1,740. Next year, it will be 4,320 if you go year 3. The other year, it will be 6,000. Are we together? I'm talking about what will happen. And so, why I'm explaining this is for you, because now you'll have to go adjusting the figures as we go by. However, the major question that this finance committee must answer, not may answer, but must answer is, we have a pension scheme. Are we together? What is our contribution? The employee does 10,000 and the employer does 15,000. Sindio. Now the government has come, 15%, yes. 15%. Now the government has come and has put the contribution to the NSSF progressively. You have seen the contribution is increasing. Sindio, the responsibility of you contributing to the pension scheme, does it reduce? Does it reduce? Does it reduce? It doesn't reduce. What does that mean to your budget? It means if you have one employee, you shall continue increasing that budget year after year as the government continues increasing the NSSF. Are we together? And that is why I have put the figures there, that you can be able to evaluate what is the impact of this on your budget that you make every year. And remember, there is no employee in this country who is to be employed on contract. All of them, they are pensionable because NSSF is compulsory, it's mandatory, and whenever it is paid to the government itself to go and accumulate. Now, the national average income in the year 2022, that is what I want to, this is the basis of the computation. Now, there is, what will come in 2022, the figure of the national average income is, I want to simplify for your understanding, go to the column that is written, the total private and public sector. The total private and public sector, in year 2022, this is 561. If you divide that by 12, what do you get? 561 divided by 12. That gives us what? 72,000 and some hundred. That is why the national average income today is 72,000 to the nearest whole number or the nearest 1,000. Next year, it will be different because the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics always releases this figure every other year. And remember, I'm explaining to you because it will affect your budget. Now, your contribution, I think I have explained the other slide. I have explained the contribution. They are split into two. So the tier one, what we call the tier one, will go, there is the tier one and there is the tier two, the current limitation, the current minimum wage. That is what is affected. Now, I think I will forward this so that you can be able to understand it better. So I want to go to what happens when we have divided. There is a concept that you must understand called contracting out. Let me explain before I enter into it. Now, currently, all our money, the employer and the employees are going to NSSF. Are we understanding one another up to there? So the check we write, it goes to NSSF. The industry player said they do not have confidence with the NSSF. And after a lot of pull, they were given the opportunity to do the following. Number one, all the tier one money must go to NSSF. But they were told tier two money can be invested in a pension scheme. Are we together? Just as we invest pension, it can be taken to a pension scheme. And so, you are told, because this money is with NSSF, and you don't trust us, then do the following. That is what I want to explain and spend a little bit of like 2-3 minutes explaining that. So, we have an employer called Pcea. The employer called Pcea says, hiyo pesa ya NSSF, hiyo tier 1 wapewe. But inasema, the tier 2, hii pesa ya tier 2, wasifanye nini? Wasipewe. We can be able to invest it with a higher return because we have a pension scheme and pension administration that wanatuita AGM, tunajua vile wameinvest pesa zetu, na at the end of the day, we can ask questions. You see? So they were told, hii pesa yote ambayo ni tier 1 then, this is the procedure for you to get that money. Anything that is beyond 720, you can get it through the following way. And that is what we call contracting out. Now, what's the procedure? You write an application to the RBA, Retirement Benefit Authority, saying that you have a pension scheme that is able to invest this money in a better way. When you write, it will take like 60 days. Then, the employer must do the following. Number 1, to pass a resolution that they want their tier 2 money to be invested by their pension scheme. That one, through the SG office, we got a minute from the business committee telling us we can continue to apply so that the money, the tier 2 money for all the employees of the Presbyterian Church of East Africa would go to be invested in that pension that will give a better return. Number 2, when we apply that, we were told you have now to write when we apply, the employer will write to all the employees, telling them that their tier 2 money will be invested by the scheme. Number 3, the scheme itself, because we have a scheme and we have 9 trustees, have to pass a resolution saying we are ready to receive this money and invest it. Now, the business committee has given us that resolution. The board of trustees have given us that resolution. Currently, we have applied the RBA. We are waiting for the 60 days to end. What will that do? What will that do is, ile pesa yote ya employees wetu above the tier 1, ile ambayo from February 2023 ambayo imeenda kwa NSSF will now forward that money to the scheme. Are we together? All that money will be forwarded to the scheme. Now, in the scheme we have the administrator. Currently we have Britam managing our money. So that money, when it comes, it will enter into the same how the pension is invested in Pcea. However, the following happens in doing that, because we have that. In the next meeting that we'll have on 18th of February, the board is to amend, or it is amending this trust deed so that it can reflect. Already, Britam is doing that work on our behalf. And NSSF now will have the right to come and supervise what Pcea is doing in regard to the investment of that money. And at the end of the day, this is where we have very double speak in our government. They say at the end of the day, every year, we must submit the accounts to show the return that money has earned. Sasa ni NSSF. Now wao, they never account to us how they have invested our money. Are we together? But because simply this is the law, this is how we are handling it. So the next slide is the form and how we are feeling and how we are supposed to fill that form, and finally, how they transfer. The second thing that is also an injustice to the pensioners is that when they are returning money to us to invest, they say they will refund that money minus any interest earned. Are we together? Ile tu tulicontribute Januari, ndio watafanya nini? Wataturudishia, hawatafanya nini? Hawataweka? How fair is that? I don't know. But that is what the NSSF have said. So we are waiting for the 60 days, because even if we stay for how long, NSSF will never give us a return of more than 6%. Because in the law of Kenya, the return is about, I think they are given to give a minimum return of about 4%. And so they do just a little bit high, just enough to make sure that the whole thing is done. And so that is, in summary, I wanted to summarize and what affects us in the NSSF Act 2013, and you understand the whole thing. Now, at the end of the day, when we have also the other team, it is also important to explain to people, to everyone, how, after we have done all that, how will the benefit come out from the NSSF. But at the policy level, what we wanted you to understand is that the act itself will affect the budget. Every year, the budget will be increasing. And the rate of increment, it is there stipulated very well and clear. So what's the impact at the end of the day? The impact of NSSF 2013. I have summarized it as the impact of NSSF in the next slide. The impact of NSSF, these are following. That is, all employers and employees are required to make an increased and underline mandatory contribution. Not optional, but mandatory. For employees, the increased contribution may be perceived positively or negatively. You see, because at the end of the day, the payslip of the employee, si itaenda chini with 1,000 and something, si ndio? Next year itaenda chini with 2,000 and something. The other year itaenda chini with 4,340. So to the employee, bado itakuwa inafanya nini? Inaenda chini. But it's kept somewhere. And number 3, there is a significant increase in operation cost to the employer, especially those who are not ready to make contribution to a registered benefit scheme. For us, we have a registered scheme. The SRBS, the Pcea SRBS, currently it is 1.8 billion in value. Yeah, 1.8 billion in value. So it is the scheme that we are saying shall continue investing this money going by. And finally, the employer needs to educate themselves and their staff about the changes introduced by NSSF. That's why we have taken time to educate you on what the Act provides and how the Act affects us. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, CPA. Karaoke. Tumpigie makofi mzuri. Thank you, thank you. I hope you fraud with the calculations for Tier 1, Tier 2, because you will be required to do that in your payroll to ensure that I receive the Tier 2 money so that I can invest to the pension scheme. Na najua hiyo mtafanya. We shall do all the modalities when the approvals are done. We shall do ensure the way we used to do. You deposit that money. But tomorrow you shall see we have an ERP system that we shall then show you so that it will make everything easier for all our payments so that we are in sync, you and us. Now, without much ado again, we want to invite Elder Karigedo so that, sorry. Thank you. I'm reminded of a health break kidogo. Tusimame. Tuko wako wapi? Brother kuja. Brother akuje atufanyisha kidogo ama whoever is near. Tuko and brother. Asante. So that we have a small health.
We're going to do a count of 1 to 10. So number 1, stretch yourself kama soja. Number 2, sasa si unajua venye tunaandikanga tu. Okay? Tuko pamoja. Number 2. Number 3. Aya, number 4. Number 5. Aya, number 6. Number 7. Aya, number 8. Hey! Ni mrefu. Halafu number 9. Number 10. Alafu 0. Sawa. Asante.
Tupigie Anthony makofi. Thank you, Anthony. Asante. So I have no much to do. I don't know. I invite Patricia, then you invite your chair for that. Karibu, kuja. So that you appreciate Patricia, our CEO, Presbyterian Foundation, because of the belief of where we are.
Praise God. Praise God again. My name is Patricia Karanja, and I really thank God for this opportunity to be here today. I am the secretary to the Presbyterian Foundation, and with us today is also the chair of the Presbyterian Foundation, whom I'll invite so that he can say jambo and say something, and also introduce the directors who are here with us. Karibu.
Bwana asifiwe. Bwana asifiwe. Basi asante sana Patricia, ni shukrani kwa ndugu zangu wa hesabu, na ni vyema tukijuana na tukipatana. Kama nilivyotangulia pale awali, nilijitambulisha kwa majina ni Charles Karigithu. Zaidi ya hapo, nampenda Kristo Yesu akiwa mwokozi wa maisha yangu. Mimi ni mzee wa kanisa katika kanisa hili ambaye tupo. Ni katika parokia ya Milele, ndani ya presbytery ya Pwani Kaskazini. Na kwa hivyo tunashukuru tuko hapa, tunawakaribisha kwa vyote. Kwa hivyo hata tukiwa tunajitambua tukiwa ni ndugu zetu kutoka foundation, sote tunafanya kazi kwa pamoja. Kwa hivyo nitaanza na ile nimepewa, manake ni vizuri kutambulisha. Mwanzo, Presbyterian Foundation ni kampuni ambaye it's limited by guarantee. Zaidi ya hapo, iko na board yake, na pia nitawatambua wana board wale walio hapa na pia wale ambaye hatuko nao hapa. Tukianzia katika ofisi ya GA, na nitawaambia, sitawauliza wasimame. Tunaanza na moderator wetu wa 24th General Assembly, Reverend Mutahi Thego, ambaye sote tunamfahamu, na huyo ni member ni ex official katika hiyo foundation ama wakfu. Yule mwingine ni karani mkuu wa kanisa, Daktari Mchungaji Robert Waihanya, ambaye tuko naye hapa. Sitamuuliza asimame, lakini ni vyema tukitambua tuko naye pia katika akiwa ex official wa wakfu hiyo ya Presbyterian Foundation. Yule mwingine ni Deputy Secretary General, ni tulikuwa naye hapo awali, sitamuuliza asimame pia, lakini ni vizuri tukijua Mchungaji Paul Kariuki, na katika hao ex officials, yule mwingine tuko naye ni on treasurer Elder Daniel Waithima, ambaye tuko hapa, na hafla hii ina madhumuni yake ni yale ametuwekea kando. Katika board yenyewe tuko na nikianza na mie kama mwenyekiti ambaye na represent Nairobi region. Ndio mtasema ni Pwani, lakini Pwani iko ndani ya Nairobi region. Kisha tuko na elder mwenzangu anaitwa Elder Esther Ndirango, niliwajulisha asubuhi, tamuliza asimame, akirepresent gender, na ni vyema mkimjua kwa hiyo hali. Yule mwingine ni Elder Paul Ngugi, wale wametoka Rift Valley watakuwa wanamfahamu, ana represent Rift Valley region. Yule mwingine ni Elder Purity Kinywa, ambaye ana represent Eastern region. Wale walio hapa, maana yake asubuhi nisikia watu wa Eastern wakitajwa, kwa hivyo pia nyinyi mmekuwa represented. Ile nyingine naye ni Mchungaji Elizabeth Kimani, ambaye pia yuko nasi hapa, naye ana represent pia agenda, na ni vyema tukijua agenda imekuwa represented kwa njia njema. Yule mwingine ni mchungaji John Mahinda ambaye anawakilisha wachungaji wetu, ni representative wa wachungaji wetu, na kwa hivyo hiyo inasimama kwa njia mzuri kwa sababu nao wachungaji wamesimamiwa katika board yenyewe ya foundation. Na yule mwingine ni Elder Lucy Mwai, huyo ana represent Mount Kenya region. Kwa hivyo region zote zetu 5 ziko represented kwa njia sawia. Alafu namalizia kwa tamati na Patricia Karanja ambaye ndio katibu wa board hii ama wakfu huu wa Presbyterian. Ni vizuri kushikilia na kuona yale tumeongea pale awali na yale tunaoshikilia, maanake nyinyi ndio ndugu zetu wa hesabu, na kwa sababu yeye ataweza kufafanua kwa undani zaidi kulingana na vile tulikuwa tumekubaliana, ni vizuri kuelewa foundation. Maanake niliona tukitembea, wakati tumetembea nyanja mbalimbali tukiwa na ofisi ya GA, liona kidogo watu wanakanganyika, wanashindwa foundation hapa ambaye tuko hapa, hii kanisa tuko ndio tunaita milele, lakini hii kanisa ni kanisa ya foundation ya wakfu wa Presbytery. Hoteli pale mnapolala pia hiyo ni ya wakfu. Kanisa yako pale huko pia ni ya wakfu wa Presbyterian Foundation. Gari hile unaendesha na imesajiliwa kwa vile inavyosajiliwa kwa foundation, pia hiyo inasimama ikiwa ni ya foundation. Na stakabadhi zenu zote za milki ya shamba ama ya milki ya gari, zote stakabadhi hizo tuko nazo. Wale ambao hawajatupatia tutaenda tukifatizia, because we are also updating our records. So it is important that we put these things in this perspective so that this bigger unit called the foundation, hata hizo kampuni ambayo ataweza kuelekeza kwa njia mbalimbali, zote ambayo tuko nazo, zote ni mali ya Presbyterian Foundation. Na Presbyterian Foundation ndio kanisa yenu, na nyinyi nyote mko represented, kwa sababu mwezi tunaoenda watatu, wakati tutakuwa na AGM, tukatakuwa na representatives kutoka kwenye presbyteries ambao watakuja kwa AGM. Tutaambia vile tumeweza kufanya mwaka uliopita, tutaambia makadirio yetu yale tunaotarajia katika mwaka unaokuja, na haya yote tutayaweka wazi sawia, ndio uweze kuuliza swali, na ndio tusiende kuwa na hali ya mshike ama hali ambaye hatufahamu. Maanake saa ingine nasikia huruma sana nikiona tunaongea mambo mengi, lakini yale mambo hayana miguu, kwa sababu ukiangalia vile hali inavyoongeleshwa na vile hali imesimama, kama Kipngeticha alituambia pale awali, kanisa letu la Presbyterian ni kanisa tajiri, na tunashukuru Mwenyezi Mungu, manake bila Mwenyezi Mungu hayo yote hayangeliwezekana. Na mambo ambaye tumeweka kwa mambo ya investments ni mambo ambaye mtaona yamekolea, maanake tangu miaka ya 61 hizo investment ukiangalia tajriba bei yake ilikuwa ni chini sana, lakini leo ukiangalia hizo investment zimekuwa. Kwa hivyo lile letu la msingi ni kuzikuza, kuweka vile tumesema tuwe na integrity, tuangalie yale mambo tunayofanya, na hayo mengine yote Mwenyezi Mungu ataweza kutuwezesha. Na ukumbuke vile mchungaji aliyoweza kushare ile wadi ya asubuhi, yule wa talanta 5, talanta 5, talanta 3 na talanta 2. Na hiyo ni changamoto ambaye nitujiulize tufanye nini sisi wenyewe, manake ni tutuwekea ramati. Let us ensure that we grow our wealth. It is possible. Why should, and nimesikiza, manake nilikuwa siko hapa nikasikiza daktari akiongea habari ya televisheni yetu hii ya CAK TV, wakiangalia habari ya redio na vile wanasamulia kuichukulia kuipeleka mbele. Na ni kweli tayari katika kanisa la Kipresbiteri tuko na wanaoweza kuangalia hiyo televisheni. Kwa hivyo vile marketing na vile segmentation kama alivyotangulia na akaweza kudokeza vizuri, ni kushika hawa wanarika, manake ndio wengi katika population ya Kenya. Basi hapo tutakuwa tunashika na tunaangalia mbele. Kwa hivyo mbinu tofauti tutazitumia, lakini yote tumweke mbele Mwenyezi Mungu. Muendelee kutuombea, nasi hatubabaiki na hatubanduki, tuko hapo na tutaweza kufanya hiyo kazi kwa pamoja. Asanteni sana na Mwenyezi Mungu aweze kuwabariki. Patricia, please come forward. Asanteni. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you so much, Elder Karigithu. There's something he has mentioned that is quite interesting. Na najua kuna ambao wamejiuliza, hii kanisa shamba lake imekuwa registered under the name of the Presbyterian Foundation. When you look at our hotel here, when you look at the individual congregations we have, they are all registered under the Presbyterian Foundation. And at times I get questions. People ask why. People ask, why can't we register it in the name of the officials of the session or the presbytery? You know, it's good because those are questions I get on a daily basis. The reason why the church deemed it fit to have the Presbyterian Foundation as a company is because a company has perpetual succession. This means that it continues to exist over the years, even if the directors pass on, even if it undergoes, the directors become insane, or whatever reason, the company continues to exist. So when we have our properties registered in the name of the Presbyterian Foundation, it means the Pcea, in terms of its properties, we belong to the Pcea for the many years the Pcea will remain in existence. There are also people who ask, who is the foundation? How are we related? As a presbytery, you are all members of the foundation. You are the owners of the foundation. The Presbyterian Foundation belongs to the church. And you're all represented there from all the presbyteries. And even in this annual general meeting, we shall onboard the presbyteries that have just been subdivided. So yes, the Presbyterian Foundation belongs to all of us and belongs to the Pcea church. When it comes to properties, so far as per our records, we have about 3,070 title deeds. We currently also have about 381 motor vehicles. If you put all this in terms of figures, the values, the valuation, in terms of our asset base, we are worth more than 1 trillion shillings. That is us as a church, which means we are very rich. I hope Zakayo hatuski, but we have a lot of wealth as a church, and it is about time that we tap into that asset base, because the Pcea church is quite wealthy. When you look at the loans we have guaranteed the presbyteries just this year, this 2022-2023, we have guaranteed over 288 million worth of loans. These are loans that have been taken by parishes, congregations, or schools, which means we are trading a lot of money as a church. So what does that mean, especially when you look at this project? Because that is one of the thorny issues in this church. Most people have looked at this project, the Milele luxury apartments, wanaona ni kama tumefika mwisho. It's like there's no solution to it. But look at what we are worth, and the problem that we have is just a speck. When you sell these apartments, all of them, if today they were completed, all these apartments would be worth 1.6 billion. Just these apartments, I've not looked at the hotel, I'm just saying all these apartments would be worth 1.6 billion. When you look at the loan that we have with the National Bank, because we all scratch our heads, tunajiuliza, hii loan tutaweza kumaliza? The loan currently is at 800 million. Which means, when you look at what we are worth, we look at the glass either half full or half empty. We have the capability, we have